Dr. Gianna Reams, and almost exactly a year ago, Netflix released this on January 31st of 2024. Alexander, the Making of a God. I was the historical consultant on this thing. Um, I was also the no lady. So I was the one who told them what was historically inaccurate. Although I will say I never got to see any of the sets or costumes, so I had no input at all on that. And sometimes they listened to me, and sometimes they didn't. Flip of a coin, which that was. I think more often didn't. But one of the things I objected to was that subtitle. And they didn't listen because they wanted something sexy for the title and they wanted to draw in viewers and they thought that would do it. I didn't like that title for a very simple reason. It's misleading. Alexander didn't claim to be a god in the way that you and I understand that. And in fact, even what he meant by the request for divine honors toward the end of his life that he sent back to Greece, that had political ramifications and also fit within historical developments. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. What he really claimed to be was the son of Ammon Zeus. Okay. Now, when the Greeks met peoples in other places and they started talking about their gods, the Greeks wanted to kind of quite homogenize, but that's okay. That's my god by another name. And one of the gods this happened to was the Egyptian god Ammon, who, from the Greek point of view, they called him Zeus. So Alexander, and I'm not going to go into the whole story about it, Alexander began after a trip to Siwa to call himself the son of Ammon Zeus, and would issue things like this, which is the image from a coin, one of Alexander's coins. Obviously, it's a modern kind of recreation. But you see the diadema there, that's the ribbon, which indicates royalty. It would have been white or sometimes white and purple or very dark blue kind of woven together. But what I want to point out to you is this, okay? The Ammon horns. So a divine sign symbolizing being Ammon's son. Okay. Did he ever dress up like this in real life? I don't know. But that's what this symbology is, to be the son of Ammon. Now, as soon as you start talking to anybody in the modern world and you say, yeah, I'm the son of a god, first of all, they're going to wonder if they need to commit you. Second, the person that comes to mind is not Alexander, it's Jesus. Okay. And of course, Jesus would go on in Christian thinking to be divine, to be part of the Trinity, to be a God. So that is not what Alexander's claiming. Right? In fact, that would have struck Alexander as highly impious. You don't go around, piety is not going around and claiming to be that level of God. All right, so let's talk about what does this mean? What did divinity mean to the Greeks? There were levels of divinity. So you had primordial gods and gods of ideas. These aren't really the gods that show up in myth. They don't have a lot of personality. It's like gods of sleep, gods of night, Earth herself, Gaia, Uranos, the heavens, and they may show up here and there and be mentioned in some myths, but there's not a lot of personality to them. And then these idea gods, so justice, and discord, the goddess of discord, Eris. So again, this is one category of divinity. Then you have the Titans, the Titanes, and the Olympians. These are the ones that appear in our myths that we're familiar with: the Apollo, the Aphrodite, the Ares, Dionysus, even. But they are not creator gods. Zeus didn't make the world. In fact, he's the third generation down. Zeus didn't even create human beings. That was Prometheus. And Athena had to breathe life into them. So they're a different group. And then you get lesser divinities and chthonic or earth divinities. Hades is not an Olympian. Hades is a chthonic god, as is Persephone. Um, and divinities like Pan, okay, the god of the wild areas. And you have nymphs and satyrs. They are also divinities. You have daimones, or little divine things. So there are a wide variety, and they range in their powers, in their presence in myth. Um, then we come to a level that is like, if you will, a hinge between divinity and mortality. So there are immortals and mortals. And there's something this in the middle, and those are the heroes. The heroes are the children of gods, male and female. There are female children of gods as well. They are not divine. So Achilles, the son of Thetis, the goddess, Achilles died. Okay. Sarpedon, son of Zeus, mentioned in the Iliad, he dies. Perseus dies. Probably the best known hero of all time was, of course, Herakles. Herakles also dies. Some of these apotheosize and go on to become gods. Herakles is one of those. And he's not very important as a god. He's like the doorman of Olympus. Others apotheosize by becoming constellations. That's not really divinity, okay, in the same way. Those others who die, like Achilles, get a consolation prize. They go to the Elysian fields. They don't get stuck in Hades. So Hades is not hell, first of all. Hades is this kind of boring place where your spirit goes after you die and you hang around until people forget you exist, and then you just kind of fade away. But the Elysian fields are better. It's not as boring. Heroes also had cult. Okay. And whenever I say cult, again, I don't mean people drinking poison Kool-Aid in down in South America. Cult are actions. So sacrifices, other gestures, prayer, and such toward the gods. They receive cult. So yeah, they are kind of like a divinity in that respect. They even had shrines. The special name for a shrine just for a hero is a heroine. So they're gods. They're not gods. They die. They don't live forever, but they get cult. So where do they fall in this? Okay. Over time, that little open door would allow for real people to also receive cult. Now, there was never an Achilles. There was never a Herakles. Newsflash. Hopefully you don't think there was. They're characters. They're like, in your novels. That's how we understand them now. We realize that. But the ancients thought they were real people. So when Alexander and Philip and the other Argead kings believed that they were descendants of Herakles, they meant it. They believed it. And because of that, to the Greek mind, it seemed perfectly rational then that mortals now might be able to bridge that gap. Okay, so there's an in. So when Alexander claims to be the son of Zeus-Ammon, that's what he is claiming. I'm a hero, damn it. Give me cult. That's what he's asking for when he's asking for divine cult. And the others are making fun of him. If Alexander wants to be a god, let him be a god. They don't really mean it. And Alexander's not claiming to be on a level with Zeus. And how did this happen? Where is that in? Okay, so when Greek colonies, when people went out and made a colony, the founder of that colony, after death, gained special status. And there would be a festival in memory of this person and cult given to this person. All right. Then over time, and those were real people. Okay. Then over time, this begins to move in on living people. So during the Peloponnesian War, there was a big battle at a place called Amphipolis where the Athenians and the Spartans went at it over the city. The city wanted to stay free. They were a colony of Athens. Athens wanted to reclaim her because she had access to timber and silver. she didn't want to be reclaimed. She wanted to stay independent, and she called on the Spartans. Help! Okay. So the Spartans came to defend Amphipolis, and at this big battle, 600 Athenians fell. They lost. 7 Spartans fell. One of them, however, was the leader of the Spartans, Brasidas, a great general. And Amphipolis went on later after his death to offer him hero cult. In fact, they moved their old founder and put him in their place. So it's a little step forward in time and understanding for the next person who gets that special honor for extra courage was alive. And that was another Spartan, Lysander. There were a couple of others in there I won't go into, but Lysander, the Samians offered him cult as well. They renamed one of their festivals the Lysandrea in his honor. And Lysander said, okay, let's go. Another Spartan later, Aegisthus, one of the kings, Lysander, neither Brasidas nor Lysander were kings, but Aegisthus he was also offered cult, and he said, no way. He said, no. Okay. So that then brings me to the Macedonians. Because the Macedonians also have kings and had this concept of sacred charisma. Okay. What makes a king not a tyrant? That sacred charisma. That they are appointed by the gods, or descended from the gods. That there's a special status. They are the high priest. So every morning, the Macedonian king gave a sacrifice for the health and well-being of the Macedonian people. When they crossed rivers, they did sacrifices. When he left or entered cities at least the capital, at the gate, he offered a sacrifice. So he has jobs as a priest. Even after the Greeks got rid of kings, they kept that as in office, often chosen by lot, where you're king for a year and you have to do the things the king traditionally did. Well, in Macedon, there's still a king. Okay. At least at their death, there's some evidence that they offered Macedonian kings cult. Outside Royal Tomb 1 at Vergina is a heroine. Now, we can talk all day about who's buried in that tomb, but there's a heroine. The morning that Philip died, it's part of the big festivals. There was this parade that went through the streets of Igai, E.G., and there were statues of the gods, 12. There was a 13th. It was a Philip. What do you mean by that? Okay. We can debate that, but that's that towing onto maybe the cloak of divinity here, even before Alexander. So when Alexander, by the time he reaches Egypt, has already done more stuff than Herakles ever achieved, for him to say, I'm the son of a god, might not seem so odd. And he's not displacing Philip. There were concepts, and I'm not going to go into details of it. There was concepts of kind of almost dual paternity in cases. So he's not saying I'm not Philip's son, but he is claiming, again, to maybe have a toe on the cloak of divinity there as a hero. That's what he's claiming to be a hero. And we have to be very careful in our sources because they're all, as I've talked about in the videos on the sources, they're all late, they're Romanized. So they're looking back at this through Roman lenses and getting to exactly what Alexander thought. We have to put him in his historical context, meaning his historical context even relative to our sources, and how our sources talk about him is a Roman view. Okay. Not a Macedonian view. And so that's why I went back and talked about Brasidas, Lysander, Philip, so you can kind of line him up there and see how he might have understood this whole god business, or at least divinity business. So did Alexander think he was a god? No. Certainly not the way we would think about it. Did Alexander think he was divine? There, I think maybe so. But in line with the heroes of old, he wanted to be the new Herakles.